we go to data set, we open the data set, and we're going to see, because I have already explored this data, we're going to see there are some already created projects, but some new feature we have gotten with Graphext Fluid is the fact that whenever you upload the data, there's automatically created a first exploration project. And this first exploration project, we believe, can be really, really useful, because not everyone needs to do a fancy clustering or a train and predict model, or you, of course, can do that still with graphics, but you don't have to in case you don't need to. And it's always better to explore your data easily, no need for graph, no need for fancy visualizations, just some quick and dirty data exploration. And we believe that this is the most efficient way to do that. Oh, pages are not responding. I'm sorry. There you go. Okay. So let's go to our traditional variable viewer, right? Because I believe the best way to start exploring the data is by having already, this is a spoiler, by having already questions that we want to answer to guide a little bit the exploration, make it easier. And then throughout the way, we're going to find answers to questions we didn't know we have. But if we have that route that we want to follow, it makes it that much easier. And here we're going to see the traditional view of the variable viewer that we've had for a long time, right? What you can do here is you can filter by different types of variables. Let's say I want to filter by female. Oh, sorry. By gender, of course. And I want to filter females out of this data set, only the females of this data set. Let me close here, see if that improves the speed at all. And now, let's see, we have different types of contracts in this data set, right? We have the month-to-month contract, a 2-year contract, a 1-year contract for different types of clients. So let's say I just want to see what characteristics the females with a month-to-month contract have. Okay, and here we see that they are a little bit different from the general population. How do we see that? So to see that, we have the gray bars. What the gray bars show us is the general distribution of the entire data set, right? What distribution each category has in the entire data set. And the blue bars show us the distribution of our selection in this data set, percentage-wise. So for example, let's click here and we see that in the entire selection, the 48.13% of people do not have multiple lines. But in our selections, that sample is bigger, and it represents 52.1% of the females with a month-to-month contract, right? So let's say we want to see this. Let me unfilter in this case. And we want to order by the biggest blue bar. In this case, it's already ordered for most of them, but let's see. Let's select a 2-year contract and see if we get anything we can work with. Okay, so let's see if we can order by device protection, right? So if we order by selection, we're going to see the biggest, highest blue bars first, and it's going to be in decreasing order. But what we see here is this blue bar is the highest one, but maybe the no internet service is makes the biggest difference with the non-filtered sample. So how do we order by that? We go to sort by, and we sort by uplift, and that's going to show us the difference with the original data set first. So that's why, despite this second blue bar being larger than the first one, we see the other one first. Okay, let me deselect. Oh, I can deselect here as well. And let's go to Variable Manager. This is a new feature we just got with Graphext Fluid as well. And now you can not only change the titles as for the variables as you could before, but you would do that here, just as always, but you can also now add tags for the different variables. And what that's going to do is it's going to create different groupings for the variables in a way that is going to help you explore the data set later. So let's just say that I want to add a category for the type of client that we have, right? So we select gender, we select senior citizen, we select tenure, okay, and contract, let's say. And I want to group all these variables at once into a new group that I'm going to call clients. I create clients down here, and all my variables are going to be automatically tagged because I selected all of them. Now I deselect them just in case I don't do anything else that I don't want with them. And now here I can go to all and select the 4 variables that I have filtered or grouped in a group variable, right? This selecting various columns at the same time can also be useful in case we wanted to hide different, in this case, this column doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but let's say I wanted to hide the ID and hide the total charges, right? So I'm going to select both of them, and on the bottom here, I'm gonna hide them on the I, like that, and then I press bottom, and they're gonna go to the bottom. And then now I save the changes, and this is gonna apply to our exploration as well. So once you have, in case you wanted to create a graph or a model or anything like that, you will also have these categories that you have created to explore the data set easier. Okay, something else you can do with the variable manager is pinning stuff to the left. You can do that here. So you can always have it available easily. I'm sorry, it's taken a little bit. Like that. So you can always filter easier. You can always have it at hand, right? I'm not going to do that right now. Don't save. But what I'm going to do is work a little bit with pinning things in the table, because I think exploring the table can also be something useful in the beginning. So let's say that I want, for whatever reason, I want to have let's pin this. I want to pin this to the left, and I want to have gender first. gender first. And even, let's just get rid of the ID. It's not telling me that much interesting info right away, right? So this way, if I wanted to, for example, sort by those who have churned, I could always press in the three dots and you could sort by descending or ascending, depending on whichever option you would prefer, right? Something else that I can do now that I have explored a little bit the data, I have seen a little bit the distributions, but I can go to compare. And here I can compare, let's say, a type of contract. Okay, so we're gonna see the differences between one variable, which in this case would be contract, each variable each value that variable can take, and we're gonna see the comparison between those values in each one of the variables in the data set. So here we have tenure, we have tech support. You can see, which makes logical sense, right? The contracts that are shorter have a higher churn rate, let's say, or people don't last as long with a month-to-month contract as they do with a 2-year contract, which is the longer lasting one. So that's what this data is telling us. And you can see that comparison in each one of the variables. The online security, the people that have the least online security is the month-to-month contract. And that would make sense as well, right? Usually when you're worried about that kind of stuff, not necessarily you're gonna get a month-to-month contract. You're just gonna go for the longer range ones once you have done some exploration, or maybe once you have some experience with the telco company. If we wanted to go more in detail, let's say, we have also now this plot section, which is new. And what it's going to show you, it's a variable to variable comparison, right? So in this case, we can, for example, explore contract and monthly changes, let's say. So you have different options available for that two variables that you have selected. Let's say we go to the heat map, and you can order by relative count. That's gonna show you what the percentage for each one of the monthly, the contracts is. So let's say for 17% of the 2-year contracts are between 20 and 25 monthly charges, right? You can also change the number of bins here, make it bigger, make it smaller. You could even now change like this. Of course, if you do this, you still want it to be related to the type of contract, you would have to change to the axis Y. And yeah, you can find information really quickly like this. You can save it as an insight, let's say type of contract and monthly charges. And you're going to have all those insights in this tab here. You could always, of course, also download this graph. You could, in case you wanted to create a cluster, you could also do that. But let's go a little bit more in depth and create a project now, shall we? Let's go to data and let's open the wizard. So right now I'm working from the first exploration project that has been automatically created by Graphext when I uploaded my dataset, right? But I want to go a little bit more in depth. I want to have some prediction model. Maybe you could, of course, for this data, it would make sense as well to make a clustering. The clustering would be more to, let's say, distinguish patterns in the data. So behavioral groups, for example, which type of client is behaves a different way, a certain way in comparison to a different type of client. And then the model would be, the train and predict model would be more useful for maybe generating a predictive model, which you can use in a predictive way or in a descriptive way as well. You could always see the variables that you have used and what importance they have in our model, which we're going to do later. But let's now create a cluster. And we're going to select a few variables. Senior, tenure, contract. We're going to send them to the model. I'm going to click on next. And now we have this option, which is overwrite. And what that's going to do is it's going to write over the current first exploration project. And it's going to create all the new graph, everything, all the new project is going to be saved in this one. So in case you wanted to keep this old project for whatever reason, you could always check this backup option, and you would, instead of overwriting the new one simply and having this one disappear, you would overwrite the new one and then save this one in another one. But I don't want to do that. I trust Graphext completely. I know that this is going to work, so I'm just going to execute, and it's going to create the new project for me. It's gonna look like this once it starts creating the project. Let's give it some time to think. Like this. I'm not going to wait until the project is completely done, because I did actually create a predictive model for this data set. I'm sorry, it's super hot in Madrid and it's computer is suffering, so it's kind of slow today. Okay, so this is a project that I'm creating, and this is the project that I created before. So I created a train and predict model, which is going to create a predictive model we can use to analyze which variables influence more in the churning, not churning decision of the client. Let me give it a few more seconds. There you go. Oh. I hope it doesn't take a couple minutes, like it's saying. Okay. I think now it should load, no problem. Okay, so now let's go to the graph directly, and then we will go to model and explore a little bit more of the variables that it's telling me are important, right? So here we can see that it has grouped in different clusters the customers by different variables. What variables, you may ask? What is this showing me? So what does each cluster represent? To answer that question, you just simply select this one cluster, let's say, which has a strange shape, and it counts on many different data points, and we see what is highly correlated to this. And it is telling me that the significant variables in this cluster are monthly charges, internet service, online security, online backup. You can always go to that variable, and it's going to show you it's in the lower tier of the monthly charges. It's the no internet service cluster, and no online, no internet service. Oh, for online security as well, makes sense. And I'm guessing it's going to be no online backup too, because no internet service. Okay, so if we wanted to degroup this specific cluster a little bit without touching the other ones, because I think it's got a strange shape. So, and it counts on a little bit of quite different data points. So let's see if we can resegment this cluster. I click on new segmentation, automatic, and create a new cluster here. There you go. And we see that it has created different clusters inside of this first one. Let's see what the cluster one says. Show more. So it's distinguishing them by the monthly charges again, by the multiple lines, by the paperless billing. That's what distinguishes this specific cluster. But let me just clear all the selection that I made for the cluster and remove, because I'm not really interested in going that much in detail into the cluster one. Since I had been working with this data set before, I have already created the different variable groups here. You can see all the variable groups that I created in the variable manager are available here as well. And I can filter by, for example, let's search for internet service, right? And let's color the graph and see how the different internet services are clustered in here. And we can see that there's a very clear distinction between cluster 1, 12, and 8 with no internet service. The ones in the middle are the ones with fiber optic, and I believe that is optic fiber in English, and then the DSL. In the orange cluster, we could also, for example, color by total charges. And we see there's a clear distinction between the customers that pay less and the customers that pay more here in the left corner. It's a left to right distinction. And maybe we can, by inferring some information from the previous coloring that we did, we can see that the clients with no internet, I believe it was no internet service, with no internet service, yeah, are the ones that are paying the least, and then the ones with the optic fiber are paying the most. We could also, for example, instead of coloring like this, let's just go more straight to the answer, right? And just color by churn, see what we get. So I have colored these variables. You could do that by selecting the variable itself. So they're more representative of what we want to see. I'm going to hide the description, and I'm going to go to edit properties. And here in the change color, you can always select whichever you want. I'm not going to change it because right now I think red is a good representative for churning. And this is the visualization that we get when we color by churn or not churn. We can see that the clients that do churn are mostly concentrated in this area of clusters here. So what if we wanted to segment our data just with this client here? So if I do that, it's going to choose just the clients that have indeed churned, well, just the clients in this area, which include the clients that have indeed churned, and clients that are really close in behavior to those that have churned. What does that mean? It probably means that these clients are really about to churn. So having the possibility of segmenting by just this specific data points, I can go to data now. And press in this 3 dots, download. Oh, download as CSV, right? So what I'm going to be downloaded once I do that is the CSV with the data points segmented, so the ones that are about to churn, and it's going to include all the clustering that I did before, all the information that I added through Graphext is going to be included in this data set that I downloaded. So I have access to which clients have not churned yet, but can really be churning really soon. So I can do something about it. So yeah, that, oh, well, we also can have a little look to the total charges and, to the model and see that the total charges, the tenure, monthly charges, contract, and payment method in this model that we have created are the most significant variables to determine whether a client has churned or not. And this is predicted with an accuracy of the 85.80%. So it's a pretty accurate model. Yeah, so you can use this kind of train and predict model to either predict results or just look at these variables, see the ones that are the most significant, and therefore infer which columns or which variables make the biggest impact in the target variable that you want to predict. So yes, that would be all on our site today. If you guys have any questions, by all means, feel free to drop them in the chat. I have my neighbors are renewing the house, so I don't know how bearable this is right now for you guys. I don't know if it's getting filtered by the mic or not, but I hope it's not too annoying. In case there's no questions, thank you so much for joining us today. Feel free always to contact us if you have any doubts or any concerns, anything like that. We're always available for you guys, and thank you so much for joining us today.